So, for gaming, we have a topic to discuss that made the rounds about a week ago. Uh, the gentleman, I believe his name is Ben Riggs, who wrote the book Slaying the Dragon. Do you have any idea what that book is about?
No.
Okay,
Slaying a dragon?
well, it's a rather specific one.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah, it's about the rise and fall of TSR, mainly the fall, apparently, and that it mainly blames, I believe, Lorraine Williams for. So it's a good book. It is on my list. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Right now, I'm reading up on the creation of Dungeons and Dragons, as far as like Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson and a lot of that. I want to finish that book first. But the gentleman who wrote this book, apparently a couple weeks ago, went on Reddit and declared that the golden age of RPGs is dead. This being the golden age. Now, his perspective is essentially that this golden age came about because of 5th edition D&D. And what marked it as the golden age was all these people were making content that was compatible with 5th edition D&D. And there was this ultimate gateway into things. And that now that one, it's moving into 6th edition, which will have lower sales, but also thanks to these self-inflicted wounds of Wizards of the Coast, all the other companies are starting to drift away now and make their own things. And so now it's going to be a scatter shot instead of one system. He's basically saying that, sales are going to drop off, et cetera, et cetera. And several people and he used some rather specific examples, like Matthew Colville, who owns the MCDM company game system that just went up on Kickstarter and made like $5 or $6 million, some ungodly amount of money. And the guy, his videos get all kinds of views, but he's like, well, now that he's got his own system, like he's not going to keep promoting 5th edition. And a lot of people are like, well, he might, like he still plays 5th edition. That's still where he's going to get a lot of views for his content. There's nothing saying he's going to stop. Plus his game might not succeed beyond Kickstarter. And so, plus even if he doesn't, all of his videos still exist. You know, YouTube is forever apparently. So, until you get banned or something. But yeah, like he made points, but they're all easily refutable points. Like, okay, so if D&D 5th edition isn't the gateway anymore, some other game will be. There will still always be one game that the majority of people flock to, and then from there spread out once they get tired of it. And so you've got that, and also I don't know the guy's name, but the guy on Total Party Skills is right. And like one of the things about golden ages and whatnot is you can't say that you're in one while you're in one. It's only in hindsight that you can say, yeah, that clearly was, or yeah, that wasn't. So you can't just arbitrarily like, well, I guess the golden age is over, because you can't say that you're actually in one when you're in one. So you sure can't say that it's over. So it's one of those like 20 years down the road, historians will decide if we were or weren't, like gaming historians. Which unfortunately, the guy saying this is a gaming historian, so he'll be the guy that has to say whether we were or not, and he's already giving his opinion. But anyway, you guys, any kind of thoughts on that based on what you've seen over the last year or two,
Hmm.
or longer back? I don't care.
It'll be an interesting time. All these systems springing up.
Yeah,
Well, and see, I've only started in 5th edition, so I have no idea like that kind of a transition. The only thing I can look back to is like we when HeroClix transitioned and the devastation I think that probably did to their current fan base, and then the people that dropped off and stuff like that. They did it right in the middle of the pandemic too, so.
right.
But that's the only comparison I can have, and I just know that, especially if the fact that they had a system that was so universal across that they're just, I mean, to a point.
I mean, fifth edition was such like a large symbol. It was everyone knew what fifth edition was, and now they're moving to sixth edition, 5.5 D&D. Was it?
Well, according to them, oh, it's all just one edition now. But we all know that's not true. Because if it were true, you wouldn't need to buy a new player's handbook because the rules would still be the same. But the rules aren't going to be the same, meaning it's not the same game.
We'll just have to open the book and read what they changed.
Yeah, but no, part of what he was kind of getting at, I really should have like got his like the whole full quote down, but it's kind of a lengthy thing because he also kind of talked about how part of it is that the reason fifth edition got to where it was also heavily relied on the fact that Stranger Things came out and got people interested in Dungeons and Dragons and that nostalgia for the 80s, even for people that were never alive in the 80s. And that helped drive things. Critical Role helped drive things. And well, there's one season left for Stranger Things, and Critical Role, those folks have made two games of their own. Are they going to keep doing the thing with fifth edition or not? So there's all these externalities that Wizards of the Coast has no control over that are now starting to shift their focus. And is the game going to keep up? But the counterpoint a lot of people keep trying to make is, well, you're talking about RPGs. You're not talking about Dungeons and Dragons. You know, all these other systems popping up could mean more people start playing because people are like, well, I'd play an RPG, but might finally see one like that one will work though. And flock to that one. There's no reason that the market's going to shrink. I personally think the market will grow. It's just that individual market share will shrink. So, like, okay, to use the pie analogy that everyone always tries to use here, there will now be the pie will now become bigger because I think more people will be in, but people might respectively get smaller pieces, but the pie itself will keep getting bigger. And if that's the case, then RPGs as a whole will still be in this golden age because we'll still keep growing. So at least that's my opinion. But
Well, and it depends on, I guess, on how people are getting into the RPG, into an RPG. Because to me, it seems like it's more, hey, I know somebody that does this. You should try to sit in on one of these sometime and see what you think. And if you ever get to the point where you're alienating people or they don't want to be part of that, you may start looking at where it's shrinking, or where people are like, well, I don't really want to deal with this anymore. Or to your point, it also could be the opposite, where people are like, well, this is what it's switching to. Let's figure it out, and might as well get somebody new in here too, so that
yeah, I mean, like the core of his argument in that fifth edition is a good gateway. I believe that. I agree with that because fifth edition is easy to learn, and people see that they're like, oh, like okay, this is nice, but then some people are perfectly content with that, and others are like, well, I'd like this, but if it had this instead, or like they'll get into it like, well, what were the older editions like? And some people are like, wow, that sounds entertaining. I want to play that, and
is that three
that's
point
that's
five?
well, any of the older ones, but that's what the OSR is making. They're basically remaking first, second, third edition across various games with various changes to them to make it more like the older editions. Because each of the first and second, as I understand it, have a very similar flavor. Third is like the first step into where we are now with fifth, where there's definitely a shift towards making the player characters a lot more powerful. Fourth was just like a weird misstep that no one wanted. And then fifth took some of the best ideas from the previous editions and kind of merged them together, but also made it so that you're mainly playing out heroic fantasy instead of like what first edition was, which is like you're a farmer who decided to like go adventuring one day, and so you're probably going to die.
But that's what Dungeon Crawl Classics was.
Yes, and Dungeon Crawl Classics is trying to recapture that feel. Most of the engine's built off third, but it's trying to recapture that feel. And so yeah, and it does as far as I can tell. You know, and then there's also Shadow Dark, which just came out, and I've got the book for it. I just haven't had a chance to read through it yet. So, and then like I've mentioned a couple times, we are trying to. A couple of us are trying to also create our own system, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're trying to create your own system. You and Brad are cooking up a setting last time I checked.
Yeah, so on that front, Brad, myself, and Jeff and Chad is in one of the meetings. We've talked about a setting and a system that we want to make for that. That's like big picture idea. We also want to do a few other things, just like to prove that we can actually build something. Proof of concept. So they're going to have to be a lot smaller scale, and then figuring out how to sell them. Because part of this is about making money. I know we're not going to make a fortune off of it or anything, but having some other money coming in would be great. So we could buy other stuff because consumerism, but beats the hell out of communism. But about everything does. So uh, yeah, so we've got two different development tracks that we're on. The one, the lesser one, I've got most of it up here. I've just got to figure out how to actually write it in clear, concise language, the order I should write things in, and just how much development it's going to be. Because I don't think it's going to have a monster manual, for instance. It's mainly going to be like, okay, use this with the game you have, but do this instead, kind of stuff.
Mm.
And once you get to that point, it'll be fairly easy to convert existing monsters to the other system. And we'll put examples. It might, and if it actually goes anywhere, then yeah, I'll take time to make a monster manual eventually. But I can't make the art, and I don't have the money to pay someone to make the art. And I don't want to use the AI art because I don't want to get involved in all that controversy. So I'm kind of stuck with, all right, unless you want like pencil sketches from someone that could like probably not pass high school art class, like.
Eh.
Well, we'll just have to get Grant to draw the art for you.
Well, I mean, maybe.
He's actually a pretty decent artist for.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to make my own setting. I haven't actually touched it in a couple months. That's just, you know, what's the best way to put it? Mm, oh hey, this would be neat, and I stick it on my notes app somewhere.
Well, I mean, if we get things going with the newsletter, the long term plan is I'd like to. We're talking year plan here. We'll spend like the first year going through one setting, and if we think we're all pretty well got it good, then in the next year we'll start jump to another setting, and eventually the hope will be we'll have enough material we can package that and sell that somewhere, or we'll start charging something for the newsletter, or we'll sell advertising space in it or something. That seems to be the way people do it. But thank you for watching. This has been a Geek Ball video, Echoes of a Whisper. This has been a clip from one of our podcasts. The link to the actual podcast this is from is in the description of the video if you want to see the entire thing, which we obviously encourage you to do. But otherwise, if you enjoyed what you saw, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Subscriptions and all the rest is definitely appreciated. Comments, as always. But just in general, thank you for watching. Hope you liked it. And check out the other videos we have here on the channel. See you later.